Hey everybody, welcome back to Movies You Missed podcast. This is episode 82. We're going to fall into some love today. Vee, how you doing?
My heart is full. I am open to love. I'm very optimistic now, John. How are you doing?
Doing pretty well. We seem to be down with love, which is actually a movie that we discussed here last Valentine's Day.
That's right, the episode your wife guest hosted on because I was sick.
Indeed. But my wife is not here tonight, even though she did watch both of these movies with me, because my wife is a big fan of your pick this week, and a fan of my pick this week, which is actually very rare.
A rarity.
So it was pretty awesome. But before we get into these two picks this week, which follows up our Dia de los Muertos episode, which was so much fun, Vee, did you see anything new in the theaters this week?
I did. I actually saw 2 movies in theaters this week.
Oh, well, then you've got me beat again by 2 movies, one of which I believe I've been meaning to see. I just haven't had a chance to get around to it yet.
That's right. The Creator, starring John David Washington. It's a sci-fi movie that I saw in theaters. It also stars Gemma Chan and one of our faves, Allison Janney.
Oh, I did not know that she was in that.
Me either. And it was really interesting. It's about AI. It's set in the future. I think it had a lot of potential. I think the story was a bit unique, which was nice to see. It was a bit refreshing.
Yeah.
And I just don't think all the pieces came together quite well. There were some misses for me in the story, despite its potential. Some continuity errors that really bothered me.
Oh.
And it just seemed a little rough around the edges still, that there were some missing pieces, or at least decisions that were made in the storyline. I was like, really? You decided to go that way? So overall, I gave it about a C+, B-, purely because of the originality of it. So I think it's a fascinating sci-fi movie to give it a chance. It's not fantastic, but it was a lot of fun. It's a gorgeous movie. The visual effects and the CGI they use to build the world is amazing.
That's what I've been hearing about it.
Totally badass. So I definitely recommend seeing it in theaters if you can.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall not terrible. And certainly one of the better original sci-fi movies of the year, because remember, we watched 65 together, and that was just trash.
Yeah, 65 was very meh.
One of the worst movies of the year for me.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, The Creator, if you enjoy sci-fi movies, go ahead and give it a chance.
I likely will give it a shot. I've been meaning to see it in theaters. It kind of has that keep the AI safe sort of thing, which was one of the reasons why I didn't like the Birds of Prey or the Emancipation of One Harley Quinn movie, because it ended up being like a keep the kids safe type of a movie. But I still plan on checking it out because I am a big fan of John David Washington, as I've done 2 of his movies here with BlacKkKlansman and Tenet.
That's right, both of which are amazing.
Indeed.
And then the second movie I saw is actually a yearly event. I went to the Warren Miller movie.
Warren Miller, that name sounds familiar. I think we chatted about that guy briefly not too long ago.
That's right. He is a famous ski videographer. He has been making movies, his company and brand now has been making ski movies every single year for 74 years in a row. Unfortunately, he passed away a bit ago, but his legacy still lives on with these movies. And so every year there's a tour of that year's film, and it goes to a ton of different locations throughout the United States. I've seen a ton of those movies, I think at least 10 of them throughout the years. And so this year I went. It's called All Time. It was really fun. I really enjoy those movies. It gets you ready for the ski season, the snow season. And they always have phenomenal landscapes shown. I mean, they go to all sorts of different mountains around the world, and they always show really badass skiing, jumping off crazy mountains, or heli skiing where a helicopter brings you all the way up to the top in the middle of nowhere, and then you ski down this crazy ass mountain.
Oh man,
super nuts. And so yeah, overall it was a very fun experience, as it is every year. There's vendors there for ski equipment and stuff like that, and there's raffles, and so it's this whole event, and a lot of families go.
Awesome.
At the theater. And so, yeah, I went to last weekend's showing, and that was a good time, too.
Very cool. I have been skiing one time in my life. I vowed to never ski again. It was not any kind of thing I enjoyed particularly. I will never also get on a snowboard. I'm one of those people. I don't like to be locked down. But I remember growing up, when I got into World Industries, and skateboarding, snowboarding, and skiing was kind of, intertwined with all of that. And I remember Burton snowboards. My sister's a big snowboarder, so maybe I'll check this one out. I might find it enjoyable, but I personally would not get on a set of skis again.
Well, I've been skiing and snowboarding since I was 15, since I grew up near Lake Tahoe, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. I snowboarded for most of my teenage years until I was doing a bunch of tricks and jumps at a terrain park and broke my tailbone when I took a jump wrong, which was one of the worst breaks in terms of pain level that I've had in my life. And so then moved on to skiing and been doing that ever since instead.
Awesome. Well, you are, as I have said many times before on this podcast, you are far braver than I.
Well, the nice thing is with snow, when you fall, it doesn't hurt as bad as cement, which is why I ski instead of skateboard.
Oh, there you go. Awesome. Well, without further ado, it is time to fall into love this episode here at Movies You Miss Podcast. What do you think, V?
I couldn't agree more, so curl up with a cozy blanket, a nice warm drink, settle into this fall weather while we discuss 2 fall-themed rom-coms.
Oh, yeah.
This is the first movie I think of every time fall rolls around.
Oh.
It really just embodies the feelings of fall for me. And so when we were discussing fall-themed rom-coms, this movie was the one and only pick for me.
Oh, sweet.
And the nice thing is that a couple weeks ago, on October 16th, it celebrated its 25th anniversary.
Damn, that's nuts. And I've only actually seen your pick. I think this was the third or fourth time. My wife introduced it to me several years ago.
Oh, okay, great. I've been watching it since the 90s.
Nice.
I love this movie, especially because I love its star, and I am talking about 1998's Practical Magic.
Hey.
Starring Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman.
Hell yeah.
Now, for our regular listeners, you might remember that I picked a Nicole Kidman movie a couple weeks ago.
Hell yeah.
However, that was for our horror month of October, so this is a very different movie.
Just a little bit. Although, in a way, it does kind of fit. It's not a scary movie, but it does involve
curses.
Magic.
Yes.
And curses and witches.
That's right. Practical Magic has been a favorite of mine for a very long time, and I'm so stoked to talk about it.
Hell yeah.
It actually starts off with a voiceover telling a story about Maria, an ancestor of the Owens family. Back in the day, and it flashes back to what looks like something similar to the Salem witch trials.
Mm-hmm.
These people look like pilgrims, they have old school clothes on, and the voiceover, who we later find out is Stockard Channing, who plays one of the aunts in this movie.
So awesome.
So awesome. She's discussing their ancestor, Maria, and how in the 16 or 1700s, she was a very proud woman and a woman who did her own thing, including sleeping with some men in the village.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she gets found out and they try to hang her, but thankfully, she's actually a real witch. And one of the first scenes that's so cool in this movie, where Maria hops off the platform where the townspeople are trying to hang her, and the rope snaps, and she drops to the ground gracefully.
Yeah.
She then leaves the village and goes to an island. Unfortunately, in her banishment, not only is she pregnant, but her lover never shows up. And because she becomes so bitter, she actually curses men and curses ever falling in love again and swears off falling in love. But, unfortunately, this evolves into a curse on her whole family.
Yes, very unfortunately.
And so now the Owens women, for generations, have trouble finding love, but more importantly, keeping that love.
Mm-hmm.
So many men who try to love an Owens woman die unexpectedly in this movie. And so it goes down through the ages now to present time, where we see these 2 aunts, played by Stockard Channing and Diane Wiest, and are talking to their 2 nieces, because unfortunately, these little girls' father has just died as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they discuss how their mom died of a broken heart. And so these 2 little girls are orphans and now being taken care of by the aunts. These aunts are awesome. I love them so much in this movie. They are such a great, not only comedic relief, but just fun, eccentric older women, and they're who I aspire to be as an aunt myself.
Nice. Yeah, I can kind of picture Amy taking the route of one of these aunts with our nieces.
Exactly. These 2 girls end up being Sally and Jillian, who are played by Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman as they grow up. Sally, played by Sandra Bullock, is very subdued. She's pretty shy. And Jillian, played by Nicole Kidman, is super outgoing. She's also getting into a lot of relationships, and she actually leaves the aunt's house when she's in her late teens and decides to go off on an adventure. And these girls definitely have a really special bond, which is really fun to see, especially as someone who has several sisters.
Oh yeah, I'll bet.
And they go about growing up and living their lives. So Sally stays in this small town, in New England where the aunt's house is. And again, she's really shy. She doesn't have much of a life. And one day she actually meets a man who works in the town and they fall in love. But this family's cursed.
Yes, unfortunately.
And so unfortunately, even though she's happily married and has 2 children with him, he unfortunately also has an untimely death.
Yes.
And she moves back in with her aunts.
Mm-hmm.
Jillian, in the meantime, is having a grand old time, partying it up, being in lots of different places, going through guys left, right, and center. She is the life of the party, and so they are exchanging lots of letters back and forth. And it seems to be going pretty well for Jillian, while Sally is now trying to adjust to being a widow and the mother of 2 children. But unfortunately, Jillian gets into a bit of trouble. She meets a guy named Angelov, who actually turns out to be a giant creep.
Yeah.
And he actually one day hits her. So Sally goes to help her and escape this abusive boyfriend. One thing kind of leads to another. And this guy ends up dead.
Whoops.
This movie's a bit hazardous to men's health.
Oh, just a little bit, yes. You know, you can't really help but back up Jillian and Sally in that scenario, especially because they're sisters. They're coming to, and Sally's coming to Jillian's aid. And the guy, he fucking deserved it.
Oh, 100%. I totally agree with you. Yeah, guy's an asshole.
Oh, yeah.
And he physically assaults Jillian. There's no excuse for that. And so...
No.
Now these sisters are in a jam because this guy's dead. The reason why this is called practical magic is that not only is magic prevalent in this movie, but so is the curse on the family. Mm-hmm. And so now these sisters are trying to get rid of this problem, basically, which is this dead guy. Not only using their sisterly bond, but also a bit of magic. Not only do the aunts get involved with trying to help, but also this leads an investigator to enter their lives as well.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Gary, and he's played by Aidan Quinn.
Yeah.
And so not only are these women trying to resolve this situation, which, of course, they killed someone. It's pretty terrible. But also you empathize with them and probably would do the same thing with this guy.
Yes.
And so they're trying to get through this situation, trying to deal with this investigator while also dealing with their own lives. There's great subplots with the town and how they still view this family as not only witches, but kind of evil, even though they're not. These are very good witches. They use magic for good. On top of these women just trying to live their lives, trying to be happy, trying to find love, trying to raise their children. And it's just a really fun movie that I think fits into several genres.
I agree.
Not only is it a rom-com, but again, it's a little bit of fantasy. Like we said, there's magic in it. Mm-hmm. There's crime in it.
Yes.
There's dark parts of this movie.
Oh, definitely.
But it's not scary, and it also involves family, and it's family-friendly in a lot of ways, too.
Yeah, I might push back on the family-friendly part a little bit. It is a PG-13 movie. It's not like some gory, murderous, rampage that these sisters go on.
No.
And unfortunately, that would be a lot of fun. This is not The Witch by Robert Eggers, of course. But, in a weird way, I kind of feel like this could be one of those, 17 and up PG-13 rated movies.
Really?
Yeah. And maybe because I didn't watch it until a few years ago, but there's a lot of shit that does go down, and every time I watch this movie, because I think we watch it once a year now, I'm kind of always looking at Amy and like, oh, damn, that was fucked up.
So I actually think that this is a great mother-daughter bonding movie.
I would have to agree with you on that. However, I'm not a mother nor a daughter, but I think I would have to back you up on that one too. So like you said, several genres are wrapped into this one movie from the 90s with a fantastic cast, and it is a very fun all-around movie from beginning to end.
It is, and so I think any daughters 14 or 15 and up could totally watch this movie with their moms, and and not get too scared by it. There's magic in it, and so therefore not only does this movie deal with murders, but it also deals with magical elements, spirits, ghosts, curses, as I said.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how there's little bits of magic that come in. You know, they don't have to be monumental. It can be just Sally lighting a candle using magic, stirring her tea without holding it, right?
Right, yeah. I like those little bits of the movie very much.
And even though it's 25 years old, the CGI is still really good.
It is, yeah. And that was another thing watching it this time around. Like, I was paying, not that I hadn't paid attention to it before, but, you know, watching it for the podcast, I'm like, there's going to be stuff that I don't remember. And because, again, watching it once a year and having it come into my life only just a few years ago with my wife, it's one of her favorite movies. And I think my favorite scene, and it's very small and very early on in the movie, is when there's that PTA meeting. And
I love that scene so much.
Oh, yeah, it's so great. And Nicole Kidman comes in and she kind of starts fucking around in the PTA meeting. And then she goes, "Lock up your husbands, girls." Like, I just thought that was so great. Because, I mean, it's Nicole Kidman, for crying out loud.
Is that a snake tattoo?
Yeah, that's right,
so
right.
Uptight, yeah.
Those cookie cutter white picket
Karens.
fence moms. Oh, totally. Yeah, Karens before the Karen terminology came about. Absolutely, yeah.
I totally agree with you. I love that scene, and I love the chemistry between Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock. They absolutely seem like sisters. There's wonderful banter, there's connections, but also they do egg each other on a bit or antagonize each other sometimes in really playful ways. It just makes me so happy and reminds me a lot of the relationships that I have with my sisters.
There you go. That's awesome. I really wish that those two did another movie together, especially in the comedy realm. Like, it would be, oh man, give us an R-rated Sandra Bullock, Nicole Kidman, like, sex comedy or something.
Yes, absolutely. I think they were great together. It was just a lot of fun to see them on screen every time they were together.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as I said, Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman star in this movie. Sandra, I've actually met before.
Oh. Well, I've met Nicole Kidman, so I guess we've 50-50'd each other on this one.
Together, we've met the cast. So, back when I was doing stunt work and racing, I actually did an episode of the Jesse James show when he had a show on Discovery Channel.
Oh, wow.
And this was back when they were married, actually, about a year or so before she won the Oscar, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so she was on set as well because we were working on his show. And so I met him and her, and she is one of the most beautiful people I've ever met in real life.
I used to have Sandra Bullock pictures on my wall back in the day.
Oh, rightly so, yeah. And she was so nice. She was super chill. She just hung out on set when we were working and definitely didn't seem like a diva or anything like that. She was so nice and willing to meet everybody who was working that day and didn't mind people approaching her. She was super cool. Jesse was fun to hang out with because we talked about motorcycles and a lot of stuff like that. Obviously, I didn't know what was really going on and that he was a giant piece of shit, but
of course,
it is what it is. But it was a pleasure working on that show and meeting her, and I'm so grateful to have the opportunity because, of course, she's been a favorite of mine for a really long time, and you know, is America's sweetheart in so many ways, right?
Yeah. I think my first introduction to Sandra Bullock was definitely While You Were Sleeping.
Oh.
And I'm almost positive that was it, because that was an early 90s movie. I hadn't seen The Net. I hadn't seen, a couple other movies that she had done, of course, prior to While You Were Sleeping, but something about While You Were Sleeping really just caught me, and I really, really liked that movie quite a bit, and I remember being like, damn, who is this? And then, of course, now she's an Oscar winner, and she's had a pretty good career overall.
She absolutely has, and I'll dive into it in a second. And for you and our audience, if you stay tuned through December, you might actually get an opportunity to hear us talk about While You're Sleeping.
Hell yeah.
I believe the first movie I saw her in was Speed.
I didn't see Speed until like 2000, and Speed was R-rated, so back when I was 9, I couldn't really watch R-rated movies.
Exactly.
And then, of course, you see Speed, and you're like, why is this R-rated?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, that could have been PG-13. Maybe it was R-rated because they...
Cursing?
Thought... Maybe the cursing, but also because they thought maybe the adult audience would buy that ridiculous jump at the end of the freeway, at the end of Speed.
Even as a kid, I turned to my dad. I said, would that have really made it? And he goes, no.
Not at all. Yeah, not at all.
Not at all. And so she has been in some wonderful movies. She's been in some great cult classics as well as movies in the 90s that we feel very nostalgic for.
Hell yeah.
She's also been in a ton of rom-coms.
Oh, so many.
Love Potion Number 9 is one of her first.
Never saw it.
It's really cute.
Is it? Maybe I'll check it out.
She's also in Hope Floats with Harry Connick Jr.
Oh, that movie's a sucker punch of a movie.
It is. I love it.
Oh, really? Nothing like good happens in that movie to her character for so long throughout that movie.
That's true. She does get shit on a lot in that movie.
Yeah.
She's also in 2 Weeks Notice with Hugh Grant.
Yeah, I saw that on an airplane.
It's
that
not
was
great.
entertaining.
It's not
Is it
great.
not? See, okay, I don't remember. I must not remember very well, but
She's also in The Lake House with Keanu Reeves.
I didn't hate The Lake House.
It's a guilty pleasure of mine. It's not
It's a cool
good,
story.
But I don't hate it. Yeah.
It's a cool story.
It
If you could write letters to somebody in the past and future, I mean, I thought it was neat.
Yeah, absolutely. She's also in The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, fantastic comedy.
Betty White makes that movie, I think.
Oh gosh, she is
She's-
fucking hilarious in that movie. I love the whole like thing in the forest where
Singing.
Sandra Bullock starts singing. Yeah, this. Oh,
To the window! To the wall!
That's right, to the wall. The sweatshirt.
So good. And some other non-rom-com movies that she's been in. Demolition Man.
Oh, I never saw that one.
Benjamin Bratt, Sylvester Stallone. Definitely a guilty pleasure of mine.
B. Bratt, huh? We just discussed him in last week's episode.
That's right. She's also in The Net, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
A Time to Kill. Miss Congeniality.
Classic.
Totally going to be
Michael
on the list.
Caine, Benjamin Bratt again.
Oh, yeah, Benjamin Bratt again. That's right. Murder by Numbers, which I actually liked.
Murder by Numbers was good. Yeah, I liked that one too.
Early Ryan Gosling film.
That's right.
The Blind Side, where she won her Oscar.
Still haven't seen it.
It's very white savior. You do not need to see
Yeah.
it.
No, I pretty much get it.
One of my all-time favorite movies of hers, The Heat, with Melissa McCarthy.
I never saw that one. I guess I got to give that one a
so
shot.
good.
I heard it was not good, but maybe I'll give it a shot.
It's hilarious. Gravity.
Oh, hell yeah. Love Gravity.
Ocean's 8.
Ocean's 8 was fine.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it was okay. I liked Kate Blanchett in it because Kate Blanchett was really a completely different character than I'd ever seen her in before.
She's badass.
Yeah, I liked it.
She's also in Bird Box.
That movie is awful.
Hey, I've heard mixed reviews.
You haven't seen Bird Box?
No, it's kind of a horror movie, right?
It's not a horror movie at all. It's a stupid movie, and it is.
Wait,
and this.
you're biased against Netflix, though. Come on.
I guess I am, but that was one of the reasons why I am the way I am with Netflix. She doesn't call anybody, especially the kids in that movie, by their name. She calls the boy, boy, and the girl, girl. So in the entire movie, she's like, girl, come here, girl. Boy, what are you doing, boy? It is a stupid movie. You should watch it and turn it off 20 minutes in.
Okay, I will.
Sorry, Sandra, that movie was not good.
But a movie I won't be turning off is her most recent film, The Lost City.
Yeah, Lost City was very entertaining.
And as I mentioned, Nicole Kidman stars in my pick for episode 80, The Others.
That's right.
So I won't be going through her filmography just because I just did it.
Indeed.
But I will go through a couple of her rom-coms.
Oh, yeah, she's got some good ones.
Okay, Moulin Rouge isn't exactly a com, but it is a rom, so I'll say
It is a rom. It's funny, though. There's definitely some funny moments, especially when she's trying to hide Ewan McGregor's character from the Count. I liked that whole bit when she's just like trying to get his attention, and yeah, it's pretty funny throughout the movie.
She's also in Australia, which is... I guess she's more in romantic dramas than romantic comedies. Cold Mountain, which is very serious, but it is a love story.
Very. Yes. I love that movie, and we will be doing it on this one for our Terrible Accents episode.
Yes. And she is in one rom-com that definitely is classified as a rom-com. Just Go With It, starring Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston.
Oh my God, I forgot she was in that one.
Yes. So the aunts, as I said, I love in this movie. They have so many great quips. Because Sandra Bullock's character, Sally, after she becomes a widow and moves back in with the aunts, wants nothing to do with magic. She's really pissed because she's really at this point where she's hating her family because of this curse.
Mm-hmm.
There's this scene where she walks in on her aunts and her two children, and she asks the aunts what they're doing. Are they teaching them magic? And Diane Weist's character goes, "No, honey, we're just making toast." And she looks over at the toaster and toast pops up.
Oh, I love that. So great. Who's one of her daughters, by the way, V?
Evan Rachel Wood in her very first credit.
Yeah, so awesome.
I love Evan Rachel Wood.
Major fan of Evan Rachel Wood.
For anyone who's ever seen Westworld, you have seen Evan Rachel Wood.
Yeah, I never actually continued on after, I think episode 8 of season 1, but I've been a big fan of hers. If I see her in the credits, I'm going to watch it. She was in a really twisted movie called 13. She was in the Al Pacino movie Simone, which was pretty good, about AI, oddly enough. She was in this movie called Kajillionaire with Richard Jenkins, which is actually a pretty good movie. And she actually uses her real speaking voice in that movie. So if you've ever seen her and she's got a higher pitched voice, watch Kajillionaire because that's her actual speaking voice. It was interesting. I read an article that she actually went back to her original speaking voice for Kajillionaire because of the character. Oh. And ever since then, she's been kind of trying to bring that back to the roles that she plays.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, she's very versatile. I really like her a lot.
I really loved her in the show True Blood.
She was in True Blood?
She plays Sophie Ann, the vampire queen of the South.
No shit. I stopped watching that, I think, after season 2.
That's fair, but she is a badass in that show.
Awesome.
And there's another point in Practical Magic where when Sally has to leave and go help Jillian with her relationship issue, she tells the aunts, "Don't take my kids to the summer solstice. I don't want to hear about them dancing naked in the moonlight."
That's right.
And Diane Wiest goes,
"I'm taking the first flight out of Logan. I'll need for you to watch the kids for me."
Yes, of course, dear. Just go to Jillian. The children will be fine. We'll take them to the solstice celebration with us.
No. Why can't you two just stay here?
No, dear, we can't back out at the last minute. We're on the committee.
Yes.
We're presenting.
Yes.
Fine, but I do not want them dancing naked under the full moon.
No, of course not, dear. The nudity is entirely optional, as you will remember.
And Diane Wiest very often has played a stuffy mother in her roles.
Oh, yeah.
She's in Footloose. She's also in The Lost Boys. She also is in Parenthood.
Oh, the Steve Martin movie.
Yes, that's right.
Nice. I've seen that once. I actually went to high school with the kid that plays the infant in that movie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
She's in Edward Scissorhands.
Yes, she is.
And my favorite role of hers is as Gene Hackman's wife in The Birdcage.
Oh, that's right. She is in The Birdcage. Hell yeah. Oh my God, that dinner scene in The Birdcage. That movie is so goddamn funny.
It is. It holds up. It's on the list.
Hell yeah. Robin Williams, Nathan Lane, Gene Hackman, Diane Wiest. Yeah, that movie's fucking funny.
Such a good group of actors.
Hell yeah.
Aidan Quinn, as I said, plays the investigator in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He was Benny in the movie Benny and June.
Hey.
He also plays a cop in this early 90s Madeline Stowe movie called Blink that I've mentioned on the podcast before. I know you haven't seen it, but it is really good. It's very dark, and he's always good at playing a cop.
Nice.
Lastly, my favorite role of his, he is one of the brothers in Legends of the Fall.
Oh, I never did see that one.
It's probably on the list in the future, so no worries.
Sweet.
The other aunt is played by Stockard Channing.
Hell yeah.
Most people would recognize her from Grease. She plays Rizzo.
Yeah, leader of the Pink Ladies.
I hate that movie.
Do you really?
I've never liked that movie.
Oh, wow. I have liked it in the past. I even went to the re-release in theaters back in the 90s. I actually, though, have not seen that movie in at least a decade or more. So I wonder if I would enjoy it anymore.
It always made me feel uncomfortable when I watched it as a kid. I think I just always had a sense that it was a really predatory movie.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess it kind of is.
Other movies of Stockard Channing's that I did really enjoy, she's in 6 Degrees of Separation.
The Kevin Bacon movie? I never actually saw that one. I'd never heard of it even.
It's Will Smith that stars in that movie.
Oh, okay. Yes, I remember that one coming out, but I never did see that one.
She's in a rom-com called Up Close and Personal with Michelle Pfeiffer and Robert Redford.
Oh, yeah.
Very hot movie, great leads, beautiful people.
Yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer and Robert Redford.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course, Robert Redford.
She's in a movie called Mole Flanders, which was very good. She's in The First Wives Club.
Oh, that's a pretty good movie.
She's in another rom-com called Must Love Dogs.
Oh, yeah, I saw Must Love Dogs.
Which, funny enough, has John Cusack in it.
It does.
And my favorite movie of hers is Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything.
I don't remember Stockard Channing in that movie.
Yes, she's one of the townsfolk.
Oh, cool. That movie's pretty good.
That movie's amazing, way ahead of its time, and absolutely on our list.
Yeah, definitely.
And most famously, I think, for our generation, she plays the president's wife in The West Wing.
That's right. She is Martin Sheen's wife.
Exactly.
In The West Wing. Hell yeah.
And she's a badass in that show, too.
Oh, yeah.
This movie's actually based on a book.
Oh, really?
The book has the same title. It was written in 1995 by Alice Hoffman. However, the book is very different.
Oh, really?
Yes, so not only are the aunts not very prominent in the book at all,
Oh.
the plot lines, especially some subplots, are very, very different from the book to the movie. So similar to The Shining, it's almost not comparable. They are almost disparate stories.
Yeah.
I do enjoy both, but they are very different.
Oh, so you've read the book?
Yes, my really good friend Simbri bought me the book a couple years ago because she knows how much I love the movie.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. And so the screenplay was actually adapted by two different people. First, Robin Sweecord. She wrote the adaptation for Little Women, the 1994 version.
Oh, that's one of my wife's favorite movies.
Nice. Okay. She also wrote the adaptation for Matilda.
Oh, another one of my wife's favorite movies.
Danny DeVito directed. Great film.
Matilda is good, yeah.
The adaptation of Memoirs of a Geisha.
Oh, cool. I hear that's a great book and movie. I have not seen it yet still.
I have read the book and watched the movie. They are both great.
Awesome. Isn't that a Rob Marshall directed movie?
I think so. She also wrote The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. And
David Fincher.
David Fincher. Probably my least liked film of his, though.
I think I agree with you on that. I
Yeah.
only saw it once. It was very long. And again, we don't mind long movies here, but that one felt like it was drawn the fuck out.
Yes, agreed. And Akiva Goldsman is another one of the writers on this movie.
Oh, we know his name.
We do, and he has written a lot of fantastic films that we both really enjoy.
Hell yeah.
First of all, Batman Forever, your pick
Yes.
for our Batman movie at the beginning of the year.
Hell yeah.
He also adapted from the book A Time to Kill, another Sandra Bullock
Oh,
movie.
sweet. Yeah.
He also wrote Batman and Robin.
Darn.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what I said. He adapted The Client.
Oh, cool.
John Grisham novel, badass
Yeah.
film with Tommy Lee Jones and Susan Sarandon. A Beautiful Mind,
Nice.
I, Robot,
Oh, sweet.
Cinderella Man,
Oh, that's a good one.
The Da Vinci Code.
Didn't like it.
I really love the score, though. I Am Legend,
I like that one.
A Winter's Tale,
You know, I didn't hate that one. Colin Farrell's in that. I liked that movie.
and Insurgent, one of the Divergent movies.
Oh, all right. Every now and then my wife and I do the trilogy, and I don't hate those movies.
I really like the first two. And so all of those movies, except for the Batman movies, are adaptations from books. So these two
Wow.
writers, Robin Sweecord and Akiva Goldsman, are great at adapting from books to movies.
Yeah, definitely. That's got to be such a challenge, though. I can only imagine, like, all right, so we're going to give you a $2 million, advance, and go ahead and read the book and then adapt it and do a good job.
Yeah, take it from 400 pages and cut out enough where we only have 100 pages left,
Exactly.
where it
yeah.
still makes sense.
Right.
And the last credit of his that I wanted to bring up, he is the creator and writer on Star Trek Picard.
Hell yeah. He was never on set, though. I was really hoping I'd get to meet him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And although this film is now very popular with our generation, it's considered a cult classic, it was a box office bomb when it came out.
Really? That's a shame.
Yeah, especially because it was the late 90s. Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock were popular. These kinds of
Yeah.
rom-coms, women empowerment, things like that were also really popular at the time. I don't
Right.
really know why it didn't capture audiences' attention.
Well, I wonder what came out around the same time. Maybe that's why it had such a dampened intake.
Ants was number 1 for October in 1998.
Well, that's too damn bad.
Right?
That movie's so awful.
So awful. Rush Hour was number 2.
Oh, sweet. I like Rush Hour.
Me too. And What Dreams May Come was number 3.
Oh my gosh, that movie.
Rips your guts out. So good.
Oh, right after Robin Williams died, I watched it, and I couldn't actually get more than 30 minutes in because I was honestly bawling my fucking eyes out.
I haven't seen it since he's died.
Oh, it really takes on a completely different meaning.
Oh, I bet. And Practical Magic was number 4 for the month in 1998.
Oh, wow. Not bad.
Yeah, and so it had a budget of $75 million. It only made $48 million in the U.S.
Oh, wow.
and $68 million worldwide.
Oh, damn.
However, it was 1998, remember? So VHS and then DVD sales
Sure.
did really well, and so it's now considered a cult classic.
Awesome.
The location and the house for this film is awesome. The aunt's house is so cool. Unfortunately, the entire house was just a shell and not an actual house.
Really?
It was built in a park.
Oh, wow.
And even the blossoms on the trees are fake.
Oh, damn. So it's like The Holiday with Nancy Meyers. They built that shell of a house, and then they did the rest of it on soundstage.
Or What Lies Beneath.
There you go. Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, this house isn't real. It was gorgeous. It's so nice that after watching the movie, Barbara Streisand called the production team to ask if she could buy it.
No way.
They had to tell her it's not a real house. It had already been torn down. It was just a set.
Aw. Whoa. Streisand called and wanted that house. That's fucking cool.
And it was filmed on Whidbey Island and the San Juan Strait in Washington State.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So director Griffin Dunn actually ran into some problems on this set because Sandra Bullock would generally be pretty good and finish in 2 to 3 takes, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
However, Nicole Kidman had just spent 18 months working with Stanley Kubrick
Oh, boy.
on Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah.
So she was used to 70 to 80 takes for a single scene.
Damn.
And so the flow was really messed up. Things took longer because Nicole Kidman was still in that Kubrick mindset.
Sure.
Which I totally get, but also would have been frustrating as hell for everybody else.
Oh, man, I can only imagine.
And one little tidbit of this movie that's actually a fan theory that I subscribe to. If you notice, Aunt Frances, who's played by Stockard Channing, and Aunt Jet, who's played by Diane Wiest, they wear clothes that look a bit out of place.
Yes, they do.
They seem to be clothes from the very early 20th century.
Right.
And it's a theory that they're actually much older than they are.
Oh.
Which makes sense because a lot of the townsfolk that get interviewed by this investigator are these really old people, right?
Right.
And they're talking about the aunts. And so there's this theory that the aunts are actually really old, but because they're witches, they're aging super slowly, which is awesome.
Or they're drinking the blood of innocent babies, like the witch tales go.
Right? That's probably what the townsfolk believe.
Yeah. That's actually a very interesting tidbit and Easter egg because I guess I'd never put that together.
Yeah, me either, until I read about it some years ago, and I was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
And according to the commentary by Sandra Bullock, in the scene where Jillian and Sally get drunk with their aunts, all these actresses actually just got drunk.
Yeah, I've heard that it was actually real tequila.
Yes.
But really shitty tequila.
Terrible tequila bought by Nicole Kidman, and all 4 women drank it, and they got super drunk for that scene.
Awesome.
Which I love. I am always in support of actors actually getting drunk for drunk scenes.
I'm totally down with it. Absolutely. Because I'd do the same fucking thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And bad reactions actually happened at the test screening. The original composer for this movie was Michael Nyman. The score of his was rejected at the last minute.
Oh, wow.
And it was replaced by Alan Silvestri.
Oh, sweet.
Alan Silvestri has been mentioned a couple times on this podcast. As a reminder, I'll talk a little bit about his catalog. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? The Abyss?
Yes.
What Lies Beneath?
Hell yeah.
All 3 picks of mine.
Indeed.
He also has scored the Back to the Future movies, Predator, Overboard, Forrest Gump, Contact, Captain America, Avengers, and your pick this week.
No way.
That's right.
Wow. I guess I didn't put that together at all. That's awesome.
I didn't either until I looked it up.
Very cool.
And with that, I think is a perfect opportunity for us to move over into your wonderful, love-filled, fall favorite rom-com pick of the week.
Indeed. I'm down. I'm ready. I got my gloves on. Well, at least one glove on.
Aww.
And for those that are following along with us, you might know this title because of last week. We did mention that I would be doing this movie. My film is from 2001. It stars John Cusack, Kate Beckinsale, Jeremy Piven, Bridget Moynihan, Eugene Levy, John Corbett, and Molly Shannon. This is Serendipity, everybody.
One of my first ever DVD purchases as an adult.
Nice. I also have this on DVD, but I think my parents have my copy because I had to watch it on HBO Max, which is not the end of the world. Totally fine. Now, for those that have not seen Serendipity is... it's a great movie. It's funny, it's sweet, it's full of love, it makes you warm. It kind of feels like a really nice soup dinner, you know? Like you just feel warm inside when this movie ends, or even begins. Now, for those that don't know what Serendipity is about, here's a brief rundown for you. Since we don't do spoilers here, not really going to give you the whole plot line, because why would we do that? This movie starts out in Bloomingdale's in Manhattan, and these two young folks end up meeting by chance because they each reach for a set of black gloves. Of course, at this point, there's that back and forth of, no, why don't you take it? Why don't you take it? No, you should take it. You had it first. Oh, no, you had it first, etc., etc. So they decide to buy these gloves together, but she's going to take one hand and he's going to take the other. They end up spending the rest of the day together. They go to Serendipity 3, which is in Uptown Manhattan. They have the frozen hot chocolate. They get to know each other, and things really just kind of start falling into place for Jonathan and Sarah, which are these characters' names. As this impromptu date progresses, these two are realizing that they really are into each other. At one point, they have to say goodnight. Sarah decides that she's going to write her phone number on a piece of paper for Jonathan. As she's about to hand it to him, the wind picks up and the piece of paper disappears into the Manhattan wilderness, right? So, of course, Sarah, we find out, is one of those people that's like, well, this is fate. We clearly are not meant to be together. Jonathan's like, no, fuck that. No, hell no. That was just a gust of wind. What does that mean? What does that have to do with any sort of fate or whatnot? She goes, you know what? How about this? I'm going to write my name and phone number in a book. And if you find it, then you can find me. She puts her name in this book called Love in the Time of Cholera. And of course, what is she going to do? She says once she wakes up the next day, she's going to sell it to a used bookstore. And so in doing so with this, Jonathan decides that he's going to take a $5 bill and write his information down on this $5 bill and spend it, and maybe it'll end up in her hands at some point.
Yeah.
Legible.
I can't believe I'm doing this.
Yeah, please, let fate take its proper course. Oh! That was an accident. Write that down again, please.
I can't. That was a sign. Fate's telling us to back off.
If fate didn't want us to be together, then why did we meet tonight, huh? Gotcha.
Well, I don't know, but it's not an exact science. It's a feeling.
Well, what if you're wrong, huh? What if it's all in our hands and we just walk away? No names, no phone numbers, nothing. What do you think's gonna happen? Do you think good old fate is just gonna deliver my information right to your doorstep?
Do you know, that's the best idea you've had all night.
What's the best?
Here you go. Write your name and number down.
On a $5 bill?
Just do it.
You are a strange and interesting woman. Now what?
Wait there.
Hey! What the hell was that?
Well, that $5 bill makes its way back into my hands. I'll be able to call you. And when you hear my voice on the other end, then you'll believe in fate, won't you?
Hey! What about me?
What do you mean?
Well, we have to send something out in the universe with your name on it, don't we? Come on, isn't that the only fair thing?
That is the only fair thing. What have I got, even? Oh! No, I have a really good idea.
What?
Okay.
It's a lot of tuba.
Okay, see this book?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I get home tonight, I'm going to write my name and my number inside this book.
Yeah.
And then first thing tomorrow morning, I'll sell it to a used bookstore.
Which one? You're not gonna tell me. You're not gonna tell me. Why not?
Well, now every time you go past an old bookstore, you're going to have to go inside and see if it's there.
This is just wrong. You don't just have the most incredible night of your life with a perfect stranger and then leave it all to chance, do you?
just like most rom-coms out there, fate is now going to come into play, right? You know, if he finds this book with her name and phone number, boom, they're meant to be together. If she gets this $5 bill in her change or anywhere in Manhattan, boom, they're meant to be together. Years go by after this evening between Jonathan and Sarah, and Sarah is now involved with Lars. Lars is played by John Corbett. He is a Yanni type of musician. He plays a Shania instrument, and this is a really hilarious play on the East and meets West kind of mysticism of, you know, music. I think John Corbett is fucking hysterical in this movie.
Yes.
And now Jonathan is, of course, engaged to Hallie, because at this point, you know, years later, at one point, you got to tell yourself it's time to move on, right? And especially in a situation like this in Manhattan, what are the chances and odds that you're actually going to run into this person again? Now, interestingly enough, saying that, I was on a flight to New York many, many years ago, and I sat next to this old Asian woman, and her and I started talking and getting to know each other. And when we got off the plane, we said our goodbyes. I ran into her in Times Square 2 fucking days later. It was hilarious. I saw her passing by. I was like, oh my gosh, hey, remember me? And she's like, oh yeah. And we stood in the middle of Times Square and just were like, oh, how's it going? Okay, well, awesome. It was just a really brief, reconvening, and then she disappeared into the Manhattan wilderness, and as did I. So basically, this movie is that whole thing. So now that Jonathan is engaged to Hallie, and Sarah is now, oddly enough, engaged to Lars, they're both moving on with their lives, but in the back of their minds, there's always that what if about if they ever will see each other again. So anytime Jonathan's in a bookstore, he starts flipping through this book. Anytime Sarah buys anything and she gets a $5 bill back, of course she's going to check that $5 bill, because that night was so magical and so mystical, and just, you know, fate was bringing them together for whatever reason. They just had to be in each other's lives that night because they were going for those gloves. And for the rest of this movie, they're both in the back of their minds thinking, is this where I want to be? And Jonathan is still in Manhattan. Sarah has moved to San Francisco. And Sarah is definitely happy with Lars. You know, why not? He's a musician. He's also very successful.
He's also such a boob.
A little bit, yeah. But he's a handsome dude. Like, nothing against John Corbett. Like, the guy's a good-looking dude.
I love John Corbett, but his character is so unintentionally hilarious in this movie, and just
definitely
ridiculous because he takes himself so seriously.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. I remember watching this the first time and I'd be like, this guy's a fucking Yanni. Like, you know,
he totally is.
It's a wonderful play on Yanni, and nothing against Yanni. I don't have any problem with Yanni or Kenny G, really. Like, this is really a play on Kenny G and Yanni. And Jonathan, of course, like we mentioned, he's engaged to Hallie, who's played by Bridget Moynihan. So, of course, you know, there's beautiful people engaged to beautiful people.
Yeah.
So as time goes by, we meet other supporting characters. We meet Jonathan's best friend, Dean, played by Jeremy Piven. We meet Sarah's best friend, Eve, played by the fantastic Molly Shannon. And all 4 of these characters are in support of each other, of finding each other.
Mm-hmm.
So again, for the rest of the movie, Jonathan and Sarah are trying to figure out a way to find each other, and do they or don't they? And that's why I like this movie, is because the fates align, you know, the stars align, the planets align, Mercury's in retrograde, etc., etc., etc. And it's just an all-around very sweet, very funny, very entertaining movie. And the cool thing is, as much as I love John Cusack and Kate Beckinsale, the supporting cast really keeps this movie lifted up.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so much comedy in between the seriousness, and the seriousness is still, it's heartwarming. You know, it makes me want to sit by a fire and just curl up with a good book. Mm-hmm. And that's what this movie feels like. It feels like a good book come to life. And this movie actually is not based on a novel. It's written by a writer named Mark Klein. Most notably, he's written this one. This was his first breakout into screenwriting. He also wrote A Good Year, which was a Ridley Scott and Russell Crowe feature film.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he also wrote Mirror, Mirror, which was a take on Snow White with Julia Roberts and Phil Collins' daughter, Lily Collins. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I did not hate. I did not hate Mirror, Mirror. I thought Mirror, Mirror was actually a lot of fun. And this movie is directed by a gentleman named Peter Chelsom. He's directed a couple of things, most notably this film, Town and Country, the Hannah Montana movie. and a film titled The Space Between Us, which is actually a pretty damn good movie as well. If you haven't seen that one, I highly recommend checking that one out. But yeah, Serendipity is just an all-around great 90 minutes of rom-com fall sweetness. And I'm very glad to pair it with Practical Magic because I had not actually watched Serendipity in a handful of years, but it really reawakened my love for this movie. And I've loved it since the first time I saw it because, again, it makes me laugh. The whole fate aligning thing is, is always the what ifs, as a young person being in love. And it's just a really, really good movie. And V, I'm curious, like you said, you bought this movie as one of your first DVD copies, so I feel like you're definitely a big fan of this one.
I am. I've loved this movie since the first time I saw it. Around 2001, 2002, right, when it came out. I didn't see it in theaters, I remember that, but I do know I saw
didn't
it.
either.
Yeah, pretty close after it came out, though. I absolutely fell in love with this movie. I love the idea of fate. I love that Sarah's so outgoing and she's just so assured and very cool. She's a very cool character, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Not a damsel in distress in any sense of that word.
Right.
And I love the beginning of this movie when they meet. Eugene Levy is hysterical in every single scene he's in this movie. He makes me laugh so much.
He definitely is.
And the beginning of this movie, you're immediately invested. I love how quickly this movie grabs the audience because these two meet. Their chemistry is incredible. Great casting.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And then when Sarah insists that they have to let fate decide, one of the things they do is they go into like a hotel or apartment building and she goes, okay, we each get in an elevator. If we both select the same floor, then we're supposed to be together right now.
Yes. And the crazy, and what's funny about that scene is they actually do choose the same fucking floor.
Oh, I know. And that's the thing. I'm so invested. I'm like, oh, great. They did it.
They hit the nail on the head for each other. They're going to floor 23. But what happens when John Cusack gets to another floor, a young guy and his kid get on the fucking elevator, and this kid, just like Will Ferrell and Elf, hits every goddamn button. And on his way up, he keeps telling the story to everybody that comes into the elevator. So, of course, every floor they go on, everybody pours out of the elevator like, where is she? Where is she? And they're like, not here, not here. And then, of course, when Sarah decides, that's it, time's up, she gets in the elevator, and, of course, they land on floor 23. They all come out, and then things move on from there.
They've just missed her.
Just missed each other.
And like I said, because you're already invested in this movie as an audience member, you just want to Spartan kick that kid, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And it's kind of funny because he's dressed as a devil and he just keeps like making these weird screeching noises. And his dad's like, he's a kid. What are you going to do?
Oh, God.
And of course, John Cusack's character's like, well, motherfucker, I'm supposed to be meeting the love of my life on floor 20 goddamn 3 right now. And of course, he doesn't know she's going to be on floor 23, but that's the beauty of the movie is that we know. So of course, like you said, we're invested. And of course, every time they get off a floor, it's like, not that floor, just get the fuck up to 23. But yeah, it's very sweet. It's very hilarious. And I really like that sequence, definitely.
And I love that they chose Love in the Time of Cholera because this is a book written by Gael Garcia Marquez. I've read this book. And
oh, really?
It's a wonderful love story.
Oh, sweet.
And it also is about unrequited love for years. And it takes a very long time for this couple to get together. And so it parallels this movie. And so I thought it was the perfect pick as a plot point and as a prop that they picked that book of all books. And it was very fitting.
Very cool. I've not read the book. I only heard about this book when seeing this movie. So maybe I should give the book a chance. You never know. I might like the book too.
It's cool. I liked it a lot. I think I have a copy that I can lend to you.
Well, then, there we go.
And so, yes, as you said, I've been a fan of this movie since it came out, so now decades.
Yes.
It's wonderful from start to finish. It definitely gives you that fall feeling, as you said, and I'm so happy that you picked it.
I am too, and I'm glad I got to reintroduce myself to this movie because, like I said, it's been a handful of years since I watched this one.
And so with fresh eyes, it's good to know that it still holds up.
Absolutely, yeah.
And another cast member that I absolutely love that is such a crucial supporting character is Molly Shannon's character of Eve.
Oh, hell yeah.
I love that she owns this new age store in San Francisco, but she's so cynical and just like talks shit about everything. And she's like, yeah, you think these crystals really work? This is such bullshit.
Oh, yeah. No, that was so great. I love her. I've always been a big fan of Molly Shannon.
Same.
She always cracked me up on Saturday Night Live and plenty of feature films that she's been in. I'm sure a lot of you would recognize her from Superstar, of course. She was also in Night at the Roxbury, which she has one of the funniest sex scenes I've ever seen.
What is love?
Yeah. I love that her and Will Ferrell are a couple for a little while in Night at the Roxbury.
And she's also in Talladega Nights with Will Ferrell.
Oh, I didn't like that one. I actually never finished watching Talladega Nights.
She shows up about halfway through the movie.
Does she really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe I'll give that one another shot then. She was also in Bad Teacher with Cameron Diaz,
that's
which was
right.
fucking hilarious.
God, I love that movie.
Oh, yeah, it's damn funny. She's also in Casa de Mi Padre, which is the Spanish-speaking white movie with Will Ferrell done by Adam McKay, which I thought was pretty funny. And she's in The 5-Year Engagement, and just a whole handful of others. A couple of scary movies as well. Very, very funny woman. Other supporting cast, like we mentioned, Eugene Levy. He plays the clerk at Bloomingdale's early on in the movie where Jonathan goes back there with Dean, and they're trying to convince him to let him look at the old transactions for these gloves that they both kind of bought together, and he's just not having it. Eugene Levy, for those that don't know him by name, American Pie, he's Jason Biggs' father in that movie. I'm not a big American Pie fan, but I can always appreciate Eugene Levy because the guy's great. Big fan of Schitt's Creek. I love Best in Show. I loved For Your Consideration. He's also in A Mighty One. He's pretty much in every Christopher Guest movie, and he's always counterparted with Catherine O'Hara. So, like, there's just comedy gold right there. Of course, Schitt's Creek. They both were paired up together. Jeremy Piven, for those that don't know him by name, Ari Gold from fucking Entourage. Fantastic. He's also in Rush Hour 2.
Oh,
he plays,
my God. That is my all-time favorite part of his. I know it's only 2 minutes long, but I don't care.
Oh, no, it's so damn funny. Bridget Moynihan, for those that don't know her by name, she was in I, Robot. She was also on Blue Bloods for however many years with Tom Selleck. Yeah, I think that went like 12 seasons or something like that. They all have dinner together at the end of every episode with Donnie Wahlberg and whatnot. She was also in The Recruit with Al Pacino and Colin Farrell, which I did not hate. I thought that was a pretty good flick. And she was also in John Wick and John Wick Chapter 2.
Oh, that's right. She plays his wife.
Yes, indeed she does. Pretty intense stuff right there.
Yeah.
Now, Kate Beckinsale, for those that don't know her by name, we are big fans of Kate Beckinsale.
Yes.
Except for when she is the first to kill a vampire in 100 years.
That will be my pick for our Terrible Accents episode.
Yes. And for those that follow us on Instagram, I think that might have been my shining moment when I had the picture of Hugh Jackman and her, and my caption was, "You're the first to call out my terrible accent in 100 years." And of course, we are talking about Van Helsing. And as terrible as the accent of hers is in that movie is still badass. I really like Van Helsing.
Okay, we just watched it together a couple months ago, and we laughed
we did.
the entire time to a point where we were almost throwing popcorn at the screen. It's not a good movie.
Yes, it is.
No, it
is. I like it. I saw it in IMAX when it was first released with my buddy Andrew and my friend Michelle. We went opening weekend, and I had such a blast, and I still do. I like Van Helsing, but it's not a good movie.
No, it's
and nothing
terrible.
against anybody in that movie. It's not good, but it is good. It's so bad it's good, and that's one of my so bad it's goods for sure. I love that movie. She's also in Vacancy, which is not a great movie, but it has a couple of moments. It's her and Luke Wilson. They go to that really shitty motel, and then, weird shit starts happening. People start getting killed. And Kate Beckinsale is the kick-ass, badass, hot-as-hell Celine in the Underworld series. I love Underworld and Underworld Evolution. I even love Underworld Rise of the Lycans. I don't like Underworld Awakening so much, but I'll still watch it because Kate Beckinsale kicking some vampire ass is always awesome.
That is a perfect description of that character. That is the movie that introduced me to Kate Beckinsale when I was a teenager.
Yes.
So badass.
Oh, hell yeah. I'll never forget seeing the first Underworld in theaters and just being like, oh my God, this is
Blown
the vampire movie I've been waiting for. Yeah, oh, it's so fucking killer.
And she's also in one of your all-time favorite movies. She plays one of the golden age Hollywood starlets in The Aviator.
Fuck yeah, she's Ava Gardner. That's right. You Can Buy Me Dinner. Oh, she's great in that movie. She's also in The Masterpiece, directed by Michael Bay, with Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett and Jennifer Garner. Pearl fucking Harbor. Can't forget about that one.
Can't forget, even if you try.
Yes. She's also in a movie with Claire Danes called Broke Down Palace, which is a pretty crazy-ass movie, if you've ever seen that one.
And in one of my all-time favorite Shakespeare adaptations, which is on our list, Much Ado About Nothing.
Oh, sweet. Hell yeah.
So actually, now that I think about it, God, I totally forgot about Much Ado About Nothing. That's the first movie I ever saw her in.
Are you talking about the one that Kenneth Branagh directed with Denzel and Emma Thompson?
1993, including Keanu Reeves.
No way. Oh my God, that's right. Reeves is in that. Yeah, so Kate Beckinsale, definitely versatile actress. That's the cool thing about this cast is everybody's been in just about every genre of movie that you can think of. And finally, we'll get into John Cusack just a little bit. Say Anything, High Fidelity, Grosse Point Blank, which we will be discussing shortly on this podcast, and a raunchy comedy that I absolutely love, Hot Tub Motherfucking Time Machine. I think that movie is fantastic and hysterical. It really is damn funny. He's also in the Stephen King adapted movie 1408, which I thought was pretty good. I'm going to be honest. I did not hate that movie.
He's in a great John Grisham adapted movie called Runaway Jury with Rachel Weisz.
Oh, yeah, that movie is good.
That movie's cool. Gene Hackman, Dustin Hoffman. That movie's actually really good.
Yeah, that's right. He is in that. He's also in the Roland Emmerich disaster film 2012. Can't forget about that one.
I try to because it is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
I only saw, I think, the last hour of it on TV once, and I'd never started it from the beginning.
My favorite movie of his is Con Air.
Oh, yeah, he's badass in Con Air.
I'm kidding. Grosse Point Blank is, but Con Air is a masterpiece.
He's also in the Terrence Malick war epic, The Thin Red Line, which is a masterpiece of war cinema. If anybody has not seen that one, it will likely be on this podcast at one point or another because it is so damn good.
That's good because I've only ever seen it once, and I think that's a time you're using the term masterpiece unironically.
Hey, look at that. I know, I do use it very ironically here at Movies You Missed, don't I?
I love it.
And again, John Cusack, he's been around a long time. His sister is usually co-starring with him, but she doesn't show up in this movie. I was kind of hoping that she would because she's so great in Grosse Point Blank and a couple other movies that they're in together, but it's still, the Serendipity works on every level without a brother-sister pairing. So, and for those of you that are fans of Joan Cusack, they are brother and sister. I'm a big fan of Joan Cusack.
You will remember her from my pick in the sequels episode because she plays Debbie Jelinski in The Addams Family Values.
Hell yeah, so good.
But Debbie, pastels?
Pastels. So funny. Now, a couple little pieces of information about the production of this movie, other than the being shot on location. Kate Beckinsale and Molly Shannon decided that they would do their own stunts for this movie. They really were into doing that. They refused actual stunt doubles, which I thought was pretty badass. We love when that happens here.
What stunts did they do exactly?
That's kind of what I'm thinking, too. It's like, what stunts were in this movie? There were a couple of falls and whatnot.
I bet you it was also the ice skating scene.
Yeah, I think you're right. So this movie ended up coming out on October 5th of 2001. This was just after September 11th. Now, many movies came out after September of 2001. Zoolander, this, a whole handful of others. This movie digitally removed the World Trade Center from the skyline shots of Manhattan. I'm going to be straight up with you. I disagree with that completely. And there's a shot in the beginning of Zoolander where they cut it early as the camera's coming around the Statue of Liberty, but they cut it because it was right after September 11th. I disagree with this. I think that they should have left it in. And I don't know how anybody else feels about that, but I had been on the World Trade Center in June of 2001. My parents got engaged on the World Trade Center in 1984. The World Trade Center holds a lot of, nostalgia for me. Granted, I'm sure for everybody that lived in New York. My mother worked on the 83rd floor of the South Tower for a long time.
Holy shit.
And she would always tell me about how she felt the building sway back and forth, which is fucking nuts.
Oh, and it was really windy?
Yeah, I don't know how I would feel about that, but hey, That's just the way it was. I just personally don't think they should have digitally removed the World Trade Center. It was a part of New York history. Now, of course, we have the new building that is in its place, but it was such an iconic piece of the New York skyline. Like, why get rid of it? You know, like, I understand also the pain and suffering that majority of people went through during what had happened, and I'm not trying to be insensitive to that at all. I just feel like they should have left it in. I mean, you see movies from the 80s, they haven't altered those. You see a movie from 1999, that's not fucking altered. The towers are still there. So the whole idea of, we're going to offend somebody by leaving the World Trade Center in October of 2001, I think that's a bit of a lame move, and that's just my personal opinion.
No, I agree with you. I understand why they did it. I understand their thinking of it being too soon. But there could be positive memories and positive heartfelt feelings if you went into a movie theater in October or November of 2001 and you got to see the World Trade Center still on screen. I could see both sides of that, and I totally understand what you're saying. I do agree with you.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way. I'm sure that there are people that be like, no, it doesn't need to be that way. And that's fine. You know, again, I'm not trying to be insensitive to it at all. I just think that it should have been left in.
Yeah, we're old enough to remember that day, and my sister was on a plane from New York to San Francisco, and it was the plane that took off right before the one to San Francisco that was hijacked.
Oh, damn. Oh, wow.
And for more than half of the day, we actually thought my sister was dead.
Oh, damn. That's intense.
It was a very intense day. It was a very emotional day for everyone, and we're, of course, incredibly lucky and grateful that she was on a different plane, and they diverted her up to Canada, and so she was finally able to get a phone and call us and let us know that she was okay. But
wow,
it was a very horrible and impactful day in our lives, and so I understand how weighty that is, and I respect either decision that the filmmakers and the production company had made. I don't think there's a wrong decision necessarily.
Right.
Whether or not I would have kept it in is probably different, but I do understand where they were coming from.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Moving along from that heavy-heartedness. Now, V, you will likely get a kick out of this. The director, Peter Chelsom, wanted to include Dawn French in this movie in a role.
Oh.
Yeah. The studio vetoed it, though. They said no.
What?
I know. I'm very curious as to who she might have been. I wonder if she would have been Eve. Something tells me she might have been Eve.
Oh, but she's a little bit older.
Well, not in 2001, though.
Oh, good point. Yeah. Oh, she would have made a great Eve, though.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I'm very glad that we got Molly Shannon, because Molly Shannon really killed the role.
She absolutely did.
And for those that don't know Dawn French by name, we discussed her in my pick for Coraline. She played Miss Miriam Forcible, and she was also the fat lady in the painting in the Harry Potter movies, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Another actress that was in consideration for this movie to play Sarah, she auditioned, she went in to meet the writers and directors, but she said that she makes a romantic comedy every week. And I wonder if you might have an idea who I'm speaking of. 2001, what was the biggest rom-com TV show in 2001? I'll be there for you.
Oh. Was it Jennifer Aniston?
It was Jennifer Aniston. What a smug thing to say. I got to be honest. Like, I don't have a problem with Jennifer Aniston, but reading that she's like, well, I make a rom-com every week, so why would I want to do this movie? And that's verbatim from what I've read, what she said to the writer and director of this movie.
Well, I guess it's how it's delivered, right? Because you say, oh, man,
True.
I make a rom-com every week. I really want to stretch my wings. That's totally different.
Sure.
Than saying, well, I make a rom-com every week. I don't need to do this again, kind of thing,
See,
right?
that's how I took it. I took it as the latter version.
Right, and
but
so
I wasn't there, so who knows?
If it's on paper, maybe she's saying, man, this is a great script, but I make a rom-com every week. I really need to get into some action movies or something to stop getting typecast.
Yeah, it's possible. You could be right, and I could be right. I guess we'll never know unless we get in touch with Jennifer Aniston and we find out. So this film ended up having a $28 million budget, and like I said, this film was shot on location in New York, San Francisco, New Jersey, all over the place. So we have that going for it on its budget. John Cusack was pretty much the name in this movie.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
Eugene Levy was a little bit. Molly Shannon with SNL. Kate Beckinsale was climbing the ladder at this point. We didn't have Underworld just yet. But something tells me John Cusack might have been the most expensive name on this call sheet.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The U.S. gross for Serendipity was $50.2 million on a $28 million budget. Not terrible.
Okay, yeah.
Worldwide gross, V, why don't you take a guess?
70 million.
Whoa, you were off by $7.5 million. This was a $77.5 million worldwide gross.
There we go.
Yeah, not bad, not bad. And like I said, it came out in October of 2001, and we're going to play our favorite game even though we have done the year 2001. I'm curious what your memory's like, V. Can you guess the highest grossing film of 2001? Franchise movie, it's the first of 8. That's your hint. And it's not a DC or Marvel movie. That's your second hint. It has to do with what your movie has to do with.
Oh, thank you so much for that hint. Nicely done.
Yeah.
I don't remember because I do have a kind of terrible memory sometimes, but that means that it is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone or the Philosopher's
Yes.
Stone, depending on where you live.
Depending on where you live, indeed, the number one highest grossing film. Now, granted, we do the highest grossing U.S. domestic box office, so yes, it was Harry Potter and The Sorcerer's Stone. The second highest grossing film, a movie that I do not think holds up, but also won the Academy Award that year for Best Animated Feature.
Right.
Shrek, that's fine. The third highest grossing film, Monsters Incorporated. The fourth highest grossing film, not starring Jeremy Piven, but he does have a role in it as a flamboyant suit maker, Rush Hour 2. The fifth highest grossing film, Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz returning in Mummy Returns.
So good. I love
Hell
both
yeah.
of those movies.
Me too. The sixth highest grossing movie, another film starring Kate Beckinsale, Ben Affleck, Josh Hartnett, and Jennifer Garner.
Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor, directed by Michael Bay, indeed.
I thought it was the same year. Yeah.
Yes, it was, 2001.
Wow, she had a good year.
She did. The seventh highest grossing film, Sam Neill, Laura Dern, both returning for the third installment of the Jurassic Park franchise, which was the last decent Jurassic Park.
Definitely the movie they should have stopped at.
Absolutely. The eighth highest grossing film was the Paul Giamatti, Mark Wahlberg, Chris Christopherson-led, Tim Burton directed Planet of the Apes. Not a good movie at all, but the makeup is absolutely incredible.
Right on both counts.
Yes, I think Michael Clark Duncan is also in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
The 10th highest grossing film, the first of now 6, because Peter Jackson just couldn't stop.
The Lord
of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, indeed. The 12th highest grossing film of 2001 in the U.S. domestic box office was the original of the now 10 Furious films, The Fast and the Furious, starring Vin Diesel and Paul Walker. 15th highest grossing film, Steven Soderbergh directed with Catherine Zeta-Jones, Luis Guzman, Benicio del Toro, Dennis Quaid, Michael Douglas,
Benjamin Bratt.
Benjamin Bratt, indeed. Hell yeah. My gosh. Oh, and Viola Davis in a very small role. Traffic. Yeah, great fucking movie. I love Traffic.
It's such a depressing movie, though. The end of the
yeah,
movie,
it is.
you're so bummed out.
Oh, definitely. It's a downer for sure. But it's such a great downer.
Great movie, yes.
The 20th highest grossing film, a film that we actually discussed last week because of Hector Elizondo, Princess Diaries with Anne Hathaway and Julie Andrews. The 23rd highest grossing film, America's Sweethearts with John Cusack, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Hank Azaria. That movie sucked.
That movie's terrible.
Yeah, that movie was awful. Billy Crystal was in that one too.
Yeah, and Julia Roberts.
That's right. Oh my gosh, yes. And Billy Crystal directed that movie. That movie sucked.
It's terrible. I gave it another shot in the last couple years, and I was like, yep, still bad.
Still terrible. The 26th highest grossing film, the animated masterpiece, and I don't say that ironically, voiced by Michael J. Fox, Atlantis and the Last Empire. Fantastic animated feature film from Disney.
Mm-hmm.
The 30th highest grossing film, Mel Gibson, Helen Hunt in the Nancy Meyers directed What Women Want, which is a pretty entertaining movie. 35th highest grossing film, Vanilla Sky. 39, Miss Congeniality with Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
Number 46, a film that I chose early on in this podcast with David Bowie in the soundtrack, Heath Ledger, Alan Tudyk, And Paul Bettany, A Knight's Tale, still a great movie. 58th highest grossing film, The Coen Brothers, Tim Blake Nelson, John Turturro, and George Clooney singing in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
But not really, because George Clooney isn't the singer.
Exactly. The 64th highest grossing film, Sean William Scott, Julianne Moore, Orlando Bloom, and your buddy David Duchovny in the Ivan Reitman directed Evolution.
I love that movie so much.
Great flick. The 81st highest grossing film, Kevin Smith returning with Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. The number 89th highest grossing film, Christopher Nolan coming in with Guy Pearce and Joe Pantoliano and Carrie-Anne Moss in Memento. And to round out the highest grossing films of 2001, coming in at number 53, my pick for this week, Serendipity, everybody.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's Serendipity. If you care to give it a shot, it is streaming on HBO Max. If you have not seen it, give it a shot. It's awesome. It's funny. It's heartwarming. Light your fire, get some hot chocolate or a frozen hot chocolate, maybe a bowl of soup, and just cuddle up with your loved one on the couch and enjoy this movie because it's an hour and a half and it's very funny. And it's just an all-around really good movie.
It's so sweet. And I'm curious, while you lived in New York, did you ever go to Serendipity?
I did, actually. I went into Serendipity, but it was so damn packed that I couldn't get in there on my own. And I didn't make a reservation, so I actually have not had a frozen hot chocolate like both of them have in this movie. So that is still on a bucket list for me. I would love to go there and have a frozen hot chocolate.
Sounds good to me.
Hell yeah. So, V, I'm curious. Would you watch Practical Magic with your grandmother?
Totally. I've watched it with my parents. I'm sure at least one of my sisters. It's a sweet film. Definitely a movie that I want to introduce my nieces to in the coming years. I definitely recommend it to everyone.
Hell yeah.
And John, would you watch Serendipity with your grandma?
Yeah, I would have. I don't know if my grandma ever did see it, but I think she would have enjoyed it.
Nice.
I think that is a perfect place to wrap up episode 82 here at Movies You Miss Podcast. I had a lot of fun discussing these movies, and I look forward to next week. V, do you want to tell everybody what we're doing next week?
Sure thing. We're sticking with the love stories, but throwing a little bit of adventure into it as well. We have decided to discuss The Prince of Thieves.
Yes.
But Kevin Costner is not in either of these films.
No, he's not.
Instead, we picked different tellings of the legendary Robin Hood.
Hell yeah.
I picked the 1938 Errol Flynn, Olivia de Havilland-led The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Nice. I've never seen it. I'm very much excited to see this one.
My father introduced me to this movie when I was a kid. It's awesome. It's very classic Hollywood. It is in color, which is great.
Oh, sweet.
Unfortunately, you have to rent this movie, but it is available on all different streaming services to rent for only $3.99.
Awesome.
And John, which version of Robin Hood did you pick?
I picked one of my favorite versions, the animated classic from 1973, with the voice talents of Brian Bedford, Phil Harris, Roger Miller, and Pete Ustinov. This is the Disney animated version from 1973. This is Robin Hood, everybody. And if you want to follow along with us, please do, because I love this version so much. It is streaming on Disney Plus, everybody.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah. Well, that was a very fun episode to get into the fall spirit. Actually, I think both Robin Hood movies kind of fall into that category as well.
I agree. Robin Hood being in the forest definitely has a fall vibe.
Yes, absolutely does. Can't wait to get into that next week. For those of you that have been with us from the beginning, thank you so much for returning. If you're brand new, please do rate, review, subscribe. Join us on social media. We're on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, and Facebook. Come on down, hang out with us, interact with us, send us some suggestions if you feel, or just sit back, relax, and listen to our sweet, sweet voices. And as always, we do like to wrap out Movies You Miss Podcast with film is a form of art, and in art, all opinions are valid, except if you think.
Rom-coms shouldn't be served with a little side of magic.
Hey, there we go. Awesome.
Thanks so much for this episode. It was a lot of fun, John.
Yes, it absolutely was. We'll see you guys next week. Cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye.